Can Superman survive an encounter with a facehugger? Does their acid blood have any effect on the Man of Steel? Let's find out. Over the past few years, I covered a lot of comic book stories within the Alien, Predator, Terminator, RoboCop, and many other film franchises. I'm not bound to only look at one franchise. If the story is interesting in some way, then I'll cover it. I wanted to have a look at a few that I put aside for a long time. We can start off with the story of Superman versus Aliens. While the cover is simply read as Superman Aliens, other sources will see it as Superman/Aliens. The story is spread over 3 issues in 1995. DC Comics had collaborated with Dark Horse Comics to bring us this interesting tale. What will happen if the Man of Steel gets impregnated by an alien facehugger? Can he stop the onslaught of a xenomorph army? The answers we seek will unfold in this story. It opens up with a satellite from LexCorp picking up an object in space, and it's headed towards Earth. The head of this project is Dr. Cheryl Kimball. She is contacted by her team about the incoming object. She prefers to not include any reporters about this discovery, but the higher-ups in the corporation want to make their discovery public, so Clark Kent and Lois Lane are invited. The incoming probe has been transmitting a signal, but it's not of earthly origin, it's Kryptonian. When they travel via a helicopter, they are forced to land due to overheating issues. Clark would then venture on his own to search for help. But he really goes out as Superman to intercept the falling object, only to recover the falling probe as it lands underwater. Superman feels compelled to touch it. Upon making contact, he is given a telepathic link and is shown various images. A team of scientists are discussing a way to save their city. There is some impending doom awaiting their homeworld. They would surround their city with a protective dome, then plant explosives in geographic areas. When the planet explodes, their city would be pushed out into space. But their time is running out. They have run out of resources, and they need help. Many of these probes were sent out a long time ago, hoping they would reach any intelligent life that could help them. Superman is given directions and a location, but then the connection is broken. He shares this information with Mrs. Kimball, and they come up with a plan. Despite Lois wanting to go with him, this is a journey Superman must take alone. His Kryptonian heritage might be linked to that planet. It's a part of his past, something that he must uncover by himself. Upon reaching the domed city, Superman can feel his powers are slowly fading. Because he is in a place far away from the sun, the only energy he has for now is what's been stored in his body. But this side effect will continue over time. The longer he is away from the sun, the weaker he gets. As Superman explores the area, he comes across a few survivors. He places them within his ship and sends them back to Earth. But as the ship leaves, Superman is left behind, hoping it would return someday to pick him up. He would fly under the dome to find an entrance into the city, but underneath he uncovers an alien hive full of facehugger eggs. Before he can reach the surface, he battles against an alien. Superman ends up injuring the alien creature, and its acid blood spills over his eyes, burning him in his weakened state. He starts to lose his vision, but is later saved by someone named Kara, a survivor within the city. She explains that they sent out distress probes many years ago, and nobody responded. With their resources running very low, a glimmer of hope appeared before them, but it was not carrying hope. It was carrying their worst nightmare. An approaching space freighter had crashed nearby. A team was sent out to recover any usable materials. They would find an alien queen within a cryogenic unit. The story should have ended there, but one person went back a few years later, hoping he could carve up any life form within and use it as food. When he shut off the cryogenic valves, the alien queen awoke. We then shift back to the LexCorp satellite. The ship carrying the survivors had returned, but chestbursters were already coming out of their bodies. Superman just realized the truth. What he sent back were infected people. He sent creatures back to where Lois Lane was. He needs to get back. Despite the loss of life that just occurred, Dr. Kimball is more concerned about capturing these creatures just to study them. Lois Lane would soon encounter a full-grown xenomorph. Seeing the only protection nearby is the ship, she rushes over and jumps in. She's able to open the airlock, and the alien gets sucked outside. As Superman and Kara try to escape with another survivor, there's not much they can do when the dome is pierced and the fuel lines get ruptured. The aliens are still chasing them, hunting them, stalking them. As Superman tries his best to fight back, he does not have enough strength, and in his weakened state, the aliens overpower him. But when he awakens, he finds himself cocooned to a wall, with facehugger eggs nearby. Is this the end of Superman? A facehugger does in fact attach itself to Superman. This causes him to go unconscious, but when he awakens, he sees the facehugger on the floor. This can only mean one thing: Superman has an embryo within his body. But once again, he is saved by Kara, who teleported to his location. As they make their escape from the hive, Kara discovers something about Superman. The aliens would not attack him, and this is because the embryo within his body is that of a queen alien. Kara is also carrying an alien within her. Kara would explain that she's actually from a planet called Odaline. They were visited by a prophet called the Cleric. This being would travel from world to world and pass down his teachings. One world he visited was Krypton. The story of the Cleric was explored in Action Comics Annual, issue number 2. It tells us how the Cleric was connected to the Kryptonian people and the impact he had on them. He disagreed with the Kryptonian people using clones for spare parts, saying this was an act of blasphemy. This caused a separation between the people, ones who went against his teachings and others who sided with him. The Cleric sent a message to his followers, saying that cloned bodies had no soul, they were just hollow shells. A battle between the two sides would then occur, which led the Cleric taking 100,000 Kryptonians into space with him to find a new paradise. But Kryptonians had a genetic defect. They were linked to their planet. If they were to ever leave, they would expire. The Cleric tried to save his followers, but nothing could save them from their doomed fate. The reason Kal-El, or Superman, was able to survive leaving Krypton before it was destroyed was because of what his father did. He modified this genotype within Kal-El prior to his conception. This defect was removed from Kal-El. The story of the Cleric in this comic book also includes Superman meeting him. The Cleric was spreading this message of religion, and to avoid war, he chose exile. There's more to that story, but I'll save it for another video. So back to Kara and Superman. They travel to the ship that brought the aliens. They discover escape pods, but the only way to launch it is to destroy the ship so it turns over and clears the path. Kara knows the technology very well, so she volunteers for this task. Meanwhile, Superman is in charge of prepping the ship with coordinates to Earth. He also has a plan to use the teleporter device on Kara once she's done. When everything is set in motion, Kara goes to the transport booth, but something is wrong. It's not working. As time is running out, she's attacked by the Queen Alien. Kara is left fending for herself as Superman is too weak to help her, and with time running out, he has to jump into the escape pod. The city, rock, and aliens, everything is destroyed in the explosion. As his pod makes its way back to Earth through hyperspace, he starts to feel tremendous pain in his chest. The Queen Alien inside of him is about to emerge, and in his weakened state, Superman is extremely vulnerable. As it reaches Earth, he exits the escape pod and tries to absorb the sun's light. He can feel his power returning to him, just in time. This is a battle he will not lose. With enough strength, he is able to crush the alien within his body and spits it out. Superman has survived. He then makes his way back to the LexCorp satellite to save Lois and Cheryl. The final alien is dealt with, but Superman is left with upsetting memories. He tried so very hard to save Kara, so he kept a picture of her to always remember her. The last thing we see is Kara within an escape pod and alive. Superman explains how he removed the alien within her body by using the transporter tube he saved her life. He is unsure if Kara survived, but if she did find a way to escape, she had no idea where Earth is. Superman was going to bring her there, but they got separated in the end. Kara remains lost in space, but at least for now, she can be at peace. In 2002, another comic book story with these two characters was released. It was spread over 4 issues. Most of us would see it as Superman vs. Aliens 2 God War, but it was originally titled Superman/Aliens 2 God War. A spaceship carrying the Xenomorphs crashes on Apokolips, the domain of Darkseid. Despite the many casualties it caused, he orders his men to check the craft right away. Having entered the craft, they locate the alien eggs, which contain beings in an embryonic state. Darkseid has a plan to use these facehuggers that will create a new army for him. Meanwhile, Superman is seen visiting New Genesis, a planet of the gods ruled by the Highfather. Every god and godling would be training, preparing for the war with the demons of Apokolips. The Highfather would then get a message from the Source, various texts that could lead to future events unfolding. It says this: "A plague of horrors that is to come. A stranger to New Genesis will fall. Apokolips nurtures this horror, but does not birth it. One will fall with a monster at his heart. Many will follow the one. All will follow the many." By using his own servants as hosts for the Facehugger, Darkseid gets to study the life cycle of this creature. Despite them calling it an insect, Darkseid has a grand scheme. From this seed grows a nightmare. Darkseid would then unleash an attack on New Genesis, using it as a distraction as our heroes fight off the army of parademons. Most of his servants would fall in battle and give birth to aliens, something Superman had seen before. During this battle, Orion is captured when he approaches a ship alone. He is outnumbered and taken away. His body is later discovered aboard that same ship. Orion is seen with a facehugger on his face. His fate is sealed. Orion wakes up and is told the truth, but he wishes to fall in combat, not to an insect or parasite. So he and Superman head to Armageddon in search of the alien hive, and they find it. But this is all part of Darkseid's plan. With Superman having no sunlight, he gets weaker by every moment, fighting off the alien horde as his strength diminishes. And as for Orion, he starts to get chest pains from the chestburster within his body. At any point now, he will meet his doom. When it seems that they stand no chance against the Queen Alien, help arrives from an unexpected source. Darkseid shows up to defeat the Queen Alien, but time is running out for Orion. Using his Omega Beam, Darkseid destroys the alien within Orion's body. Despite them being enemies, Orion is still his son. Orion deserves to fall in combat, as any warrior should, not to a parasite. The reason for this act: Darkseid's plan was to plant the seed of doubt within Orion, even though he lives in New Genesis. Orion and Superman are allowed to leave, but Orion is now going to have doubts about who he can trust, and one day that could lead to betrayal, something that will aid in the fall of New Genesis. But if Orion's loyalty proves to be strong, Darkseid has a backup plan. He will unleash hell upon them once again. The end. So, to answer your question, can Superman survive being face-hugged? Well, if he is weakened by kryptonite or has no energy from the sun, he will have almost no strength to fight back, and the loss of his invincibility makes him extremely vulnerable. On 2 occasions, we saw that he was very close to being defeated in his weakened state, so it's very possible for him to lose this battle, but at full power, the Xenomorphs stand no chance. So that covers the 2 stories called Superman vs. Aliens. I did videos looking at the stories of Batman vs. Aliens, Batman vs. Predator, and also Superman vs. Predator. There is, however, one more comic book story that I want to look at, so you'll see me cover it very soon. If you enjoyed the video, then leave a like on it. To see more content like this, just subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram. Thanks for watching this video and supporting my channel. My name is Acid Glow, and I'll see you in the next video.